Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude. And hey, if you're a college football fan and college basketball fan, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, because I do college football videos every single day, and I do some college basketball videos, especially when March Madness starts rolling around. When you're done with this video, go ahead and check out my Patreon page. We have a much wider selection over there. And for those of you that have been wanting some Gold and Blue Dude merchandise, that's where you're going to find it, over on the Patreon page. And oh yeah, the PayPal contest. The person with the highest donation by the end of this month will win a brand new 42-inch Roku Smart TV worth $300. And also, Golden Blue Dude is now on TikTok, so go check out my TikTok channel as well. Today's going to be a college football video, and we're going to be talking about the NIL. Could it be in jeopardy? Well, the NCAA has decided to review the NIL just after one season. They will be tasking the Division I Council to review it. Now, they're going to want a preliminary report by April, and then a final report for June for potential violations. So they have concerns about potential violations, okay? So here are the concerns. The representation of the athletes at the time that they made the deals. Legal representation, representation that fell under the rules. I don't really know what they're talking about, just representation. Booster involvement. Now that's a big one, because if you think about it, the schools that have the wealthiest boosters are probably going to be the ones that get the better athletes, because they can shell out more money. So that's an interesting thing to look at. And then finally, the schools themselves being involved with the arranging of the deals for the players. So they're trying to find out how involved the schools are with these deals. Are the schools paying the players themselves? That's actually against the rules. So they're trying to avoid the term pay for play. Although, isn't that what the NIL deal is? It's so complex. I know this is about name, image, and likeness, but it could come down to pay for play. I mean, especially how it's affected recruiting and the transfer portal. My biggest question is, how do these deals hold up when the player transfers? Because you know, some of these deals are based on the actual school that these players go to. What if they have a bad year? What if they decide to transfer? Does that deal transfer with them, or do they have to make a completely new deal with the new school? Another thing they're looking at is recruiting inducement or enticement. So using these deals to entice the better athletes to the university. And to be honest with you, I don't know if it's hurt your school or not, but it's definitely hurt my school, West Virginia, just like I knew it would. I mean, we have players entering the transfer portal, and you see on social media that the other players from West Virginia that have already entered the transfer portal and have already transferred are encouraging these other players on Twitter, saying, go where the money's at, go get paid. So players that have already transferred, getting their NIL deals from other schools, are encouraging players at current schools to go to a school that has a better NIL deal. That's another thing that needs to be looked into. Here's the problem. There's no overall NCAA rules at the federal level. They didn't go through any federal courts. Now, they do have guidelines, but there's nothing that's ironclad through the law. On top of that, states have different legislation rules for the NIL, and some states don't have rules at all. So some states have made laws through their legislation, but it's a state-by-state case, and the NCAA hasn't done anything overall through a federal law. That's the biggest problem here. How are you going to govern all these different states if they all have different laws? Some of them don't even have laws, and you don't have an overall law yourself through the federal government. That makes no sense. When they announced the passing of the NIL, I was actually for it. I was for it, because if you think about it, these universities, these conferences, and the NCAA altogether are making money off the backs of these athletes. So I think that they deserve some compensation, but there has to be actual laws, and that's where the NCAA has failed. So basically, this could turn into, well, it might already have turned into, the schools with the most money get the best players, because they can pay them the most money. I think the booster thing is what they need to look at the most, because the schools can say, hey, we didn't have any involvement. And technically they would be correct if their boosters were the ones that shelled out all the money. And that's not fair. It really isn't, because not all the schools have the same amount of wealthy boosters as some schools. And I would say the SEC probably has the wealthiest boosters when it comes to each school. So they definitely have a clear advantage when it comes to this NIL deal. So I agree with the booster thing. You definitely need to look into that, because that leads to an unfair playing advantage or an unfair recruiting advantage. See, that's the biggest problem with the NIL, an even playing field. How can they make it an even playing field? They're going to have to go through the federal courts. That's what it is. If you look at the Big 12, even Bob Bowlesby did an interview the other day on a BYU YouTube channel saying, hey, we went through federal law. These bylaws that we have through our contracts will be held up by the law. The buyouts, the revenue distribution, all that stuff would be held up in a court of law. That's what the NCAA needs to do. They're proving that they're worthless once again. I mean, let's backtrack to when COVID happened. What happened? Let's leave it up to the conferences and see what they do. And what happened? We had some conferences actually start sort of on time. They shortened their schedule to 10, 11 games. Then we had other conferences that held out. Then we had the Pac-12 that only had like 6 games the entire season. It was a mess. It should have opened everybody's eyes, the problems of the NCAA right then and there. But no, everybody ignores it again. And then the NIL thing pops up, and it's proving again that the NCAA is incompetent. They let the conferences govern themselves. And you can't do that because all the conferences are not going to agree with each other about their own rules. They're going to want their rules, not their rules, not their... No, my rules are the best. No, my rules are the... No, my... See, that's not how... That turns into a kangaroo court. You can't do that. You have to have a set of ground rules that every conference, that every university, that every coach, that every school, that everybody has to abide by. Otherwise, it's going to turn into stuff like this. And what happens if they do have violations? What are they going to do? Ball ban stuff. You know what? This is going to lead to these conferences breaking away from the NCAA because of their incompetence. Because the only thing that the NCAA does is they investigate and then they hand out violations. That's it. That seems to be their only purpose, because other than that, they don't do anything. It was a total fiasco when it came to COVID-19, and it looks like it's going to be another total fiasco when it comes to the NIL. It is pointless. The NCAA is pointless, and I definitely see that happening sooner rather than later. I would say probably in the next 5 years, it is highly likely, especially the Power 5 conferences, breaking off from the NCAA and creating their own sports avenue. And I wouldn't blame them. This is flat out ridiculous. Now, I don't know why our athletic director, Shane Lyons, is being a spokesperson for this. Yeah, he is being a spokesperson for this situation. I don't know why. I don't know what purpose he serves, but it's a fact. He's a spokesperson for this. So I'm asking you, please, Shane Lyons, don't make West Virginia University look stupid. Whatever you do, don't make us look stupid. I would greatly appreciate that. So I wanted to take this to the comments section. Okay, so what rules do you think that the NCAA should implement? And even if it's not the NCAA, the federal government, whoever, whatever label you want to slide in there, what specific rules should they put in the rule book about the NIL? Because apparently the NCAA has no idea what they're doing, and they need all the help that they can get. So y'all let me know in the comments section. And is the NIL in jeopardy? I don't think it's necessarily in jeopardy. I think the NCAA is in jeopardy. That's my opinion. So let me know in the comments section. Of course, I'll give you my opinion on your opinion. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next show.